Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 Just black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello everybody, welcome to SimRacers World TV for round 4 of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. And my name is Hasse Rømer, I'm here with Edmund May. I was just about to say, and we're in for a blast, I think, if overshadowing even the presentation of who we are, who we be, Edward and I. The expectation of what's coming up tonight, Edward, GT3 racing at Brands Hatch. And I am fairly confident we're in for a wild ride here.
Oh yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Hasse. Welcome everyone tuning in for this evening's entertainment here, as you mentioned, for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters, the 4th round. And as we're mentioning all season long, the sort of, I guess, the even numbered rounds are fixed setups and the odd numbered rounds are open. So this is a fixed setup run around Brands Hatch, and that's, I think, shown by the strength of the Ferraris there. The fixed setup working really well for some of these drivers, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to be a great round. Brands Hatch GP, circuit that's often used in GT racing, at least in British GT. It provided some excellent racing in the past couple of seasons, and I'm certain that is going to transfer into the virtual world of racing as well.
Yeah, very much so. I do tend to agree, and I think we're in for an absolute blast. As I said before, it's going to be an interesting run. It's the first time I've been here for a GT3 race as well. I think, actually, it might be my very first commentary gig at Brands Hatch, at least in iRacing. I've been here plenty of times virtually, unlike a lot of my British friends commentating on these races who've actually been to Brands Hatch. I would love to go one day, although that day might just be somewhere out in the future, given how everything looks these days. Luke Schneider, the German here, 8th at the moment in practice, of which we have 7 minutes left. And it'll be going into a 15-minute qualifying session and then 45 minutes of racing as per usual here, 50% fuel cap as well. And I feel like we touch upon this every time, Edward. It is the VRS setup, the VRS sprint setup, of course. So we'll see drivers pitting in around the 30-minute mark, and it's the same setup that we're seeing in the BMW Trophy that we're also running here on SRW TV on every second Wednesday, as Luke Schneider finds the outside of the grass there. So you'll be well familiar with the format as well, since you're driving in that series, Edwin.
Yes, absolutely, Hasse. It's the same, yeah, like you mentioned, the race setup in terms of you have 45 minutes of racing, but the fuel tank's limited to about half, so you'll only get about 30 minutes on a full fuel tank. You need to pit in for those final extra 15 or so minutes of fuel, and that does throw up a little bit of excitement, doesn't it, in the stages of the race. Some drivers might opt for an earlier pit stop, trying to get the undercut working out, but then that might put them out in traffic. It all depends on how their race is going at one particular moment. You can't really plan too far ahead. It's all about taking the races as you come to it, and as we have just a little while left in practice, you can see that the time setting, and then it might not be representative of qualifying times as well. Gaston Maceroni gives a little bit of a help around, I think, to that might have been Martin de Jong in the Holy Cow Racing Audi there. I'm not sure if that was or not, but just shows that we might be seeing a few more times of that happening in the evening going through Paddock Hill Bend.
I have an expectation that we'll see drivers, let's say, but overtaking is not easy in the first place here at Brands Hatch, and it's certainly a place where every place gained is indeed, it comes with a risk, and I think what we just saw before was maybe not so much down to the track as to a little bit of an adventurous scent there from Gaston. It'll be telling that it's only practice, and well, right he is. 5 minutes still left of it. It doesn't make it less annoying to be punted off here. He's chasing Pete Plastow around at the moment, those two Ferraris. There's something I just want to touch upon before we get into qualifying here, because those 15 minutes of qualifying sounds like a lot. It usually goes very quickly indeed, trying to cover what goes on track. We've got Peter Plastow leading the standings. He's right ahead of Gaston Macaroni at the moment here. You can just see his virtual racing compound Ferrari up ahead there. Oh, and somebody has found the grass and the wall on the opposing side of the track there, I'm afraid. But he leads with a 73-point total, having had a very, very consistent run, although not a fantastic finish at race 1. Kornmolder, our reigning champ, is currently second, 64 points to his name. Matthew Forrest, who's been very, very fast, but who's just been lacking the consistency. What a nice hill here. He's third in the standings, by the way, 51 points to his name, ahead of Gaston Macaroni here. He gets a bit of a problem for himself. He has 44 points ahead of Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian, fifth. Also racing for Virtual Racing Compound, 43 points. And it's very, very close from there on, with a lot of drivers still in with a shout. But it looks as if, Edward, the principal players this season could indeed be Pete Plastow, Kornmolder, and Matthew Forrest.
Absolutely, yes. I'm just having a look at sort of times being set, Hasse, and there's very close margins in those top spots. I don't know if you can get on the side of the current times in practice, which shows just how exciting things could be for qualifying. But for me, they're showing to be all within about a few hundredths of one another. Our race current practice leader, though, Matthew Forrest, has got a bit of a hefty margin. However, he did have a similar margin at Spa, but we all know how his qualifying went last time out. He was basically stone dead last, wasn't he? He wasn't able to get it going on. Oh, look at that. Luca Gagliardini there with the nice, fast and aged. Oh, it's making me very hungry. Even though I am a bit lactose intolerant, I do love my cheese.
Yeah, but who doesn't? Who doesn't in the end? I think it'll be a few
I have the cheese people, and then I deal with the problems afterwards.
There'll be a few select people who don't like any kind of cheese in any sort of setting whatsoever. Because cheese can be many things, indeed. Fast and aged, Luca Gagliardini jumps back to the pits as we're coming into the final 2 minutes of this hour-long practice session that the drivers will have had to warm up. And as Edward said before, 15 minutes of qualifying, it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of time, and especially if you get caught up in the gaggles that will occur out on track. Another interesting point that we really didn't mention too much on, Edward, you did touch on about it earlier as well. I just failed to pick up upon it, and for that I apologize. But
I'll let you go. I'll let you off on that one.
Oh, I'm so happy. Like, my heart is relieved. No, the fact that we're running fixed setups tonight at a track where I expect it's bumpy. It's difficult. You got these elevation changes, and the undulation here at Brands Hatch is noteworthy. And I think that's not going to make it any easier for the drivers. Although what we are seeing, as you also mentioned very eloquently a moment ago, is the fact that the times are very, very close here in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Margins ever so thin, aren't they? Our current pole system, though, Matthew Forrest does have a bit of a margin to everyone else, but like we were mentioning earlier, you can be very, very well and good setting those times in practice, but it doesn't count for anything, does it? It's all about getting those times in qualifying done and dusted, and it seems to me that Matthew Forrest hasn't quite been able to capitalise, at least last time out, or 3 weeks ago. He suffered, well, a calamitous qualifying, and that bled over into the race where he again had a little bit of a hiccup, shall we say, and I don't think he scored any points last time out, so he's going to be hoping for better fortunes here at Brands Hatch. But his virtual racing compound teammate here, Chris Roberts, we're going to see exactly what he can do as well, the other driver in the Lamborghini. But it is a top... we see a car taking a slight slide going through Clark Curve, and it's like, you know what, I'm going to go off into the pit lane. That was Stephen Orrell there in the Mercedes. Look at that, he slides the rear of the car around, gets onto the brakes, and well, he gets a bit of a hype on the barrier, but it takes his way into the pits.
It's a very alternate line, we could say, into the pits there. Yeah. Indeed, for Stephen Orrell, who's, again, in the DIS Racing Mercedes. As the session ticks over in just a moment or two, there it is. We'll have 15 minutes of qualifying underway, and We've seen drivers scrambling to get out of track. I don't necessarily think that's the best idea. And I'm just saying, if it was me, I would probably wait till everybody's about half a lap round. Of course, somebody is going to have that same idea. But whatever gives you the best opportunity to actually find that clear space. Now, of course, there is an idea in getting out first. But you do need space to set a quick time. And oh, Dirk Brinksma!
That's not going to do his tyres any good, is he? He's going to probably just pull off of the circuit. He's going to let everyone through. It might just be smarter just to pull off into the pit lane and have a bit of a fresh go at it because, well, he's lost a bit of tread in his tyres, hasn't he, by doing that. Meanwhile, we're going to be seeing a lot of the earlier drivers making their way out on track. Timothy van der Broek being one of them. I think he was the first man out of the pits. He's got clear air in front. He's going to be able to see what he can manage. Of course, it's an open qualifying session, so there's plenty of cars out on track, so traffic management is going to be key as well.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed it is. We've got a... oh, look at this. Drivers jostling for position coming onto these laps. It shouldn't really be a necessity because, okay, look at it. Like this, at least ahead, we've got 2 more cars. Chances are not going to get past all of them, so it's better just to let off. And of course, you've got several drivers behind as well. So if you do that, you're going to bunch up ahead of those. That's probably not optimal, but that's up to them to get around then. And of course, Brands Hatch not the longest track in the world either. We've got the first couple of time lapse.
Their times coming out of the pit lanes, they're not going to be representative. However, I'm trying to see where are some of the main players in this this evening. I think Matthew Forrest is making his way through the first corner now, so we're going to be keeping our eyes open on what he can do. Fastest man in practice, oftentimes fastest man in qualifying as well. We see him plunging down through Graham Hill Bend, down the Cooper Straight. He's got Surtees before he has the Pilgrims drop a corner where you really want to try and get a late apex and maximise your run down at Pilgrims drop it through Hawthorne's Hill and Hawthorne's Bend. Opening the taps now. Look at him flat out all the way down the hill. And he rises up. He's going to have to pick his turning in point absolutely to perfection. If you turn in too early, you get over the grass, and that compromise, you've turned in too late, you miss the corner completely and off the grass on the other side. He judges it very well, though, doesn't he? Up through Westfield and then down through Dingledale. The elevation change at Brands Hatch really is something to behold. You haven't had a chance to get there trackside, I highly recommend it. And then Stirling's Bend, Camber really allowing you to send it through, carry a surprising amount of speed. Seems to get a good exit there as he comes through Clearways and just Clark Curve remaining. We're going to see what Matthew Forrest can pull out for his first flying lap of the session.
Very much so, and that is the expertise of Edward May. Proficient.
And that's the expertise of Matthew Forrest.
The expertise of Matthew Forrest to actually go 3/10 clear on Cone Mulder. Cone Mulder didn't show too much in practice, I'm sorry, but he's up there in qualifying, and he needs to be as well on his hunt for championship points. The reigning champ, of course, the Dutchman. Up there as well, we've got Timothy van der Broek in the Stage 1 Racing BMW, and that lap time 2:24.44. Well, he'll probably be hoping to improve just a little bit at least upon that here over the next few minutes. Nick McLaughlin, it's another one I think worth watching. He's been up there on the last few occasions, the Canadian for Virtual Racing Compound as well. A strong team, it has to be said, that they have for this series. But McLaughlin not really getting a lap in so far, at least. Oh, it might that have been an off track, I'm not quite sure. But we've seen it before, Edward, and you really don't have time to mess about too much as he gets a little bit of a slide, and I think maybe getting excited a little too early there because it seemed to be more sketchy than it was. But yeah, Nick McLaughlin, if you spend too much time getting off tracks and such as this one here in qualifying, you're gonna find yourself at a very, very tough spot for the race.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see, oh my word, what is going on at the front of the shot there? That was going, I think, through Stirling's Bend, and we saw an Audi flying around. I'm not sure who that was. That could have been I'm not sure actually which one it was. We're going to see exactly what this is Martin de Jong. So he was having his own little incident that was going through Graham Hill Bend, wheel off the grass, and well, I think we can see the fast aged car as well. Giardini having a slight moment as well. I'm not sure that wasn't actually Giardini. That might have been a different car altogether. I was thinking it was Emanuele Lucioli, and this is my word, Gaston Maceroni sending the Audi skywards. Look at that, and he bounces once more, I think, off the roof of another car.
Let's just see this. Here we go. On board with Maceroni. He sees a cloud, he sees headlights, and he cannot react in time, I'm afraid. And I don't think anybody would really have been able to, but...
that was Dirk Brinksma.
That was
sent up.
Indeed. The moon launch Audi, and... well, I don't really know what to say about that. That was rather intense. One of those moments that probably wouldn't turn out the same way had they happened in real life. But all the more and all the merrier with these, because they are interesting and they are entertaining to look at, to say the very least. Gives us a little bit to smile about here and there. And Gaston Macaroni here, 21st. As we're almost halfway through qualifying, Edward. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He had another lap ruined. He's going to have another go at a flying lap here, the Argentine driver. And, well, I just have to say, it's not really optimal, is it?
No, it isn't. Through Paddock Hill Bend, he seems to get a good run through there on the power as early as he can do. Then he has got a short run up to Druid, sorry. And this is a corner where I can't seem to get on the throttle early enough. It's always about trying to get it right. Ooh. Very close to the... Oh, my word. That's another key area of the track. He can get it wrong so easily. Trying to maximize the entry into Graham Hill Bend, but he dipped his right-hand wheels off onto the grass. Turn in. There was no grip. That span him around. And I think Valdez Suarez, we saw, have a copycat maneuver, a bit of a spin in sympathy. We're going to see exactly what happens here. Does he do the exact same? No, he doesn't. But he does come across the nose of one of the Mercedes. I'm not sure which one that could have been. That might have been Caldera, I think, who uses the sort of the anime style livery, and that's not the prettiest. And a poor pit exit as well from Valdez Suarez.
He was in such great shape, in such great form last season, and came very close to winning it, but he doesn't really seem to be able to get in his groove, and maybe that's these fixed setup races that are getting to him. It seems to be very difficult for some of the drivers to adjust to, and it does, of course, mean that it's a big advantage if you are settled with the setup that you're actually able to use here. Matty Forrest looking good. He's been putting in these laps consistently throughout the session so far. Just looking at it, he's completing his 6th lap here, although
he's backed out of it.
Yeah,
he's backed out of it. He didn't have the best run through Hawthorne's Hasse, and he seemed to have another mistake going through Sterling. So he got on the brakes hard and then made sure he has a bit of gap to the cars in front. Matthew Forrest is still currently, though, on provisional pole. However, Hasse, I'm looking at the times, and they're very close for 2nd and 3rd as Pete Plasdow makes his way through and past a sideways... This is it. This is Matthew Maddox, who was the car that was sideways. The Lamborghini seemingly taking a bit too much speed into the corner and taking a handful of oversteer.
Yeah, that was... it's probably not the first time we're going to see one of the mid-engined machines exert such behavior. You could say and it's especially the Lamborghini, I think, is known for this. The Audi used to be worse than it is, and I think in many ways it seems the Ferrari still the car to beat. Also, when looking at the standings, although it has to be said, the BMWs are getting closer. We've had races. Oh, and just as I'm saying that, Pete Plastow showing us exactly that the Ferrari is in no way immune to that sort of issues. And it has the rear end wanting to overtake the front very suddenly and at a poor time. And once it breaks traction, it can be very, very hard to regain the balance of the car. At least it's something that's been criticized in the world of iRacing as well with previous tire models. It has become a lot better with the newer ones. It certainly is not easy to drive though, by any means, even in these GT3 machines. But the BMWs, which was my point, at least so it seemed a moment ago, because we've had a bit of a switcheroo around there in the standings. But the BMW is also up there as well. But still, as you can see now here as well, Edward, there certainly is a bit of an overload of Ferraris in the top 10.
Yeah, you mentioned we're coming up to the final 4 minutes in qualifying, and it's an interesting point you make about the difference between all of these GT3 machines. The Lamborghini seems to be the least stable car on turning, whereas on sort of corner exit it's really strong, whereas it's almost the flip side, isn't it, for the BMWs? They're really good on turn-in. You don't have that sort of instability in terms of the car twitching around. But yet, when you put the power down on corner exit, it feels like the rear is just not connected. I'm not sure if it's just because the car is still a bit in prototype status. It's not quite got the full updates that it would expect to see when the car is released for real. Nicky van der Broek, though, what is he doing? He's currently in the top 10 with a BMW just in front of him in the standings as well. Luke Schneider is actually still in the pits. I'm not sure what he's doing, if he's not going to be making any further part in qualifying or just waiting a little while, trying to find the track space and getting out then for the final few laps. Meanwhile, though, Matthew Forrest still in provisional pole position, isn't he? The Lamborghini driver. He doesn't seem to be able to match his times that he was doing earlier, though.
No, not really. But he's... The question is, he's been running... He's on his 9th lap at the moment, which is pretty much as many laps as anyone has done here in qualifying. But I haven't seen him stop at any point, so you wonder if he's still on those same set of tires. If so, it would make sense why he can't really keep his pace at the top. There goes on the grass. Oh, and meets the wall, and he's gonna get in the way of Cladera there. That's certainly gonna cost some time for the Spaniard. Valdez Suarez, the Brazilian, currently 16th here in qualifying. 1.7 seconds off the pace of Matty Forrest, and I think that's a little bit of a surprise. Here's Lucioli, finds the gravel.
Oh, yeah, that was just another incident, isn't it, where he's just dipping the wheels out onto the grass on turning, finding zero grip and spinning the car around. I've done that plenty of times in the BMW. It's so difficult to sort of realize how wide the car is until you make that first little mistake, and then that's all that's all she wrote, isn't it? That's your race over and done with. But luckily it's just qualifying. He's already set in a few times, so it's not going to be the end of the world for Lucioli. Meanwhile, Stuart Jacklin here is going to be rounding the turn 8, rounding out his way, try and pick his moment there for the final corner, getting on the power as early as he can do. And I think he's going to be starting what could be his final lap of this qualifying session. I don't think he'll be able to fit in another lap time. So from this point on, I think drivers are going to be, if they're starting laps, this will be the end for them. So Stuart Jacklin, what can he do from 15th place? The second highest Audi driver, Martin de Jong, is the best in 10th position, who well has one further lap remaining. As Gaston Maceroni puts it P4, and he's got one chance to try and put himself on the podium.
Indeed, and finally, you want to say, gets that lap together for himself to put him up where it seems his pace has been on.
Timer,
Sorry.
Hasse.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's very close to Nick McLaughlin. I can see they've both done 1 minute 23.65s, and then Chris Roberts, who's also in the mix there in 6th place, has done a 1:23.66. So ever so close for 4th all the way down into 6th.
And even 7th, because Mariano Lasarte here, the Argentine, has put in a 1:23.68. Which,
is he going to just fit in another lap time?
So that's 4 drivers within 0.03 of a second, which is rather impressive. Cohen Mulder is 2nd by now, and he's he's 100th of a second ahead of Peter Plastow. So such closeness here in qualifying as the checkered flag is out. Mulder, is he gonna have any improvements? I don't.
No, that was an outlap, so he's not been able to get across the line in time. He was gambling, trying to be the last man across the line, but it doesn't seem to have worked out for him, which is going to be big. Gaston Maceroni comes across the line. Is there an improvement from P4? No, there isn't. So Gaston is going to be staying on the second row of the grid. That is, of course, if Mariano Lazarte has anything to say about it. Emmanuel Lucioli, though, having a mistake as Matthew Forrest really stamps his authority in this qualifying session. The fastest man out on track right at the death as the track was getting hotter as well. I noticed it was started at 22 degrees, went up to 23. Valdez Suarez not able to improve, and that's a very disappointing qualifying session from him, starting P16. Meanwhile, though, the last driver who's I think going to be able to set a flying lap is this man going through the final corner now. What can Mariano Lazarte pull off? He seems to get a good exit, doesn't he, out of the final corner of the run up to the line. What will it be for Mariano, though, as he comes across? Is there any improvement? No, there isn't. And I think that shows his disappointment there, slamming it into the wall. P7, though, in the top 10. He's still in contention for a good result this race, but I think that is it for qualifying, Hasse, and we can look forward to a very exciting race.
Yeah, very much so, and it's the closeness of it, I think, reflecting what we might just be about to see in terms of pace for the different drivers once we get the race underway. Just waiting for the last drivers to roll through and into the pits for the session to take over, and as such for the grid order to appear on screen in a short moment's time. We're patiently yet excitingly awaiting it, and there it is, Matty Forrest with another pole position for Virtual Racing Compound ahead of Koen Mulder, Pete Plastow, and Gaston Macaroni. That is row 2, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Nick McLaughlin ahead of Chris Roberts with Mariano Lazarte and Emanuele Lucioli in that's fourth round. Keep calling round. I don't mean row. I do apologize. Timothy van der Broek in 9th place ahead of Martin de Jong, and Luke Schneider 11th with Luca Giagliardini in 12th place. Further down, we find Alfredo Tricarici in 13th ahead of Rob the Lobster, Robert van den Heuvel for Holy Cow Racing in 14th place. Steven Orwell 15th ahead of Valde Suarez Jr., Stuart Jacklin in 17th, and Sandro Orsini in 18th place ahead of Giambattista Giachetti in 19th and Alessio Cornelio 20th. That's Dirk Reski, ready, if you will, in 21st place ahead of Nils Cornelius 22nd. Damien Cobas 23rd ahead of Nuno Vinagre. Then we've got Cody Steek and Pedro Marimon Cladera in 26th place. Matthew Maddox, or Matty, or Matt, if you will, is 27th ahead of Timo Paya, Dirk Brinksma, Federico Carli, Orkun Kolak, and Jose Gordinho, the Portuguese, not setting a time in qualifying. He'll be rounding off the grid in 32nd place. And with that said, I think everybody is just about to roll. The race is about to go green. Indeed, we are rolling now, Edward, and we're excited for it. Just about to get ready here at Brands Hatch for round 4 of the Sunday GT Masters, sponsored by SimracerCoin, and of course also in partnership with Driver 61 and HM Digital.
Absolutely, yeah. Matthew Forrest at the front of the field. He's rounding out the final corner now, and I think he's gotten the race underway. Hasse already at the front. Here we can see action kicking off in the background. Koen Mulder trying to defend from Pete Plastow into the first corner. I think he does so just about. Gaston Maceroni losing out, though, at the start. We've got a car off into the wall. A bit of whiplash as the camera whips around to see Timothy van der Broek facing the wrong way out of Paddock Hill Bend. Matthew Forrest, though, he's got the start he was hoping for, and now he's going to try and manage the race from this point on as, Lucioli gets a bit of a bump up the rear from the Ferrari. I'm not sure who that was. That might have been Valdez Suarez. And look in the background as well. What on earth is kicking off there at Graham Hill? Oh, they're still kicking off there as they make their way through Surtees. Car sort of bumping over the curbs and going across the nose. That was the Ferrari. I think that was Lazarte having a massive off, and he was really up there, wasn't he, in sort of the top positions. I think he qualified P7, and he's suddenly all the way down in stone dead last. And I'm not sure if he's pulled into the pits or not, but that is not the race that Lazarte was hoping for. Look at that, though, down the inside. Cladera pulling off a very optimistic move, I think, going through Sheen Curve. It's all kicking off, isn't it, Hasse? We have no idea where to look.
No, indeed, it's scrambling left, right, and center. It went very quickly all of a sudden as well, and I got caught out ever so slightly at the green flag, and not really realizing just how far ahead those top runners were in that situation. You can see Cladera and the Mercedes kind of struggling to get the exit speed, and that's going to open him to attack from Damien Koba, who finds himself though on the wrong side here through Paddock Hill, and that's not going to help him whatsoever. Matthew Forrest is now a second ahead of Cohen Mulder, who will be happy with his second place so far, I think. And he's got Pete Plastow to contend with as well. And there's a train of Ferraris. Luke Schneider here in 6th place at the moment for Holy Cow Racing, the 150 car, first of the challengers. Well, I say that's kind of wrong, because we do have a Lamborghini leading the way at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Hasse, Matthew Forrest still in pole position, trying to extend his margin to Cohen Mulder, which I think he's been able to do. Meanwhile, though, on board with Valdir Suarez now up through, and look at that, there's a car off, and that is Tricarici. He's made a mistake there at Sheen Curve, off into the gravel, slowed him down massively and allowed several cars to make their way on by. We can see here exactly how it happened. Tricarici, he just turns in a little bit too late, too much speed into the corner as well, off the road, light bump into the wall, I think, but he keeps it going nonetheless. Meanwhile, Matthew Forrest sets the fastest lap of the race so far, and his gap is increasing slowly but surely to about 1.5 seconds over Cohen Mulder. So Matthew Forrest, after a very poor showing at Spa, seemingly getting right back on the saddle again. As Cody Steeg making a mistake coming down through Druids, and then having to make sure the other drivers around him took evasive action, which they were able to just about pull off. Meanwhile, Valdir Suarez did get ahead now of Rob van den Heuvel that we missed out on a little bit earlier on. Meanwhile, look at the front, 3 Ferraris all fighting for second place.
Yeah, indeed, and it's Nick McLaughlin with a very nice view here of the battle ahead. As Cohen Mulder has a spinner, he goes onto the gravel, and I think he actually catches it, and he comes back onto the track. But that could be decisive. That's both of the virtual racing compound Ferraris going straight through on Cohen Mulder there. Let's see what happened to the Dutchman. Reigning champ just clips the grass there through Dingledale. Ooh.
So easy to do, though, isn't it, Hasse? This track is deceptively narrow. You're trying to extend the circuit as much as you can, use all of the road, but a little mistake like that, it really does cost you, especially early on in the race when the cars are so close, because if you lose, say, a couple of seconds, that could be about 10 positions, really, in this early stage race. As Matt Maddox gets a massive snap going through Paddock Hill Bend, off into the wall and off into the pits. Meanwhile, though, look at this. It's a virtual racing compound 1, 2, 3 virtual racing compound red car of Matthew Forrest, head of the 2 blue Ferraris of Pete Plastow and Nick McLaughlin right behind. And then look, you can see another couple of Ferraris closing in, Cohen Mulder and Masaroni. But look, Martin de Jong, I heard a bit of tyre squealing in the background. I wasn't sure what that was, but that was Martin de Jong. Look at that corner entry, just seemingly losing control of the car, maybe a little bit of aero loss, maybe a bit too much speed taken in that sent the car all the way around. And this is Stephen Orrell having a little bit of a moment there going through Sheen Curve. I thought he was going to keep it nice and safe, but as soon as the car grips back up onto the tarmac, just snaps around, spears him right into the Armco.
So I think we can safely say we've had a few interesting minutes here. There's been a lot of stuff happening that we don't like to see, really, and hopefully the race is gonna settle down and allow for the racing to take front page instead of the incidents. We've got Pete Plastow now up into second place. He's got teammate Nick McLaughlin on his bumper. That'll create a nice little bit of a buffer zone for Pete Plastow ahead of in the battle against Koen Mulder there as well, as they're all trying to hunt down Matthew Forrest. Although it seems like Manny Forrest 3.3 seconds up the road by now. It's going to require something special, I think, from Pete Plastow in order to actually be able to close the gap to his teammate in the Lamborghini up ahead. The only of the, well, I say that, it's actually not true, but there are a bit of a split in the virtual racing company. I don't want to call it a split, but a few Ferraris and a few Lambos as well. So not one of them teams that runs one car only. Interesting to see. Gaston Macaroni there in 5th place, and a little bit of tire smoke up ahead, and someone's in the wall there, and that's Nick McLaughlin.
Yeah, that is Nick. He just seems, I'm not sure what happens if there was a bit of contact, or he just takes too much speed in. Yeah, look at that. He might dip a wheel out onto the grass as well as he turns in. The rear of the car breaks traction, spins him around through Sterling's. The camber is not enough to save him there. He can't use that to keep the car nice and stable. Look at that. Yep, just the right rear. That's all it takes. And I think, as if you remember, you were commentating on one of the BMW races I did, and I had a very similar mistake, didn't I? At Alton Park, dipping a wheel out onto the grass on turn. It's so easy to misjudge the width of the rear.
Oh, Chris Robertson, no! He has contact, and that's Van den Heuvel. Robert Van den Heuvel with no chance of coming around. And
as
another
well.
one, Tricarici. And I need to... Well, I'm just thinking here. I'm thinking out loud, which I do quite a lot, and I also often speak before I think. I try to do my best to do in the other opposite order, you could say. But anyway, here comes my point. I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, Edward, that we could be in for a wild ride indeed. I think I should start being a little less, say, invited to drama. And say tonight is going to be a very straightforward, boring race.
That's Luke Schneider, I think.
It's the German Luke Schneider indeed for Holy Cow Racing in his BMW. Finds him pointing very much the wrong way. And at a poor point indeed, but he just taps the wall. And I think just the stress of being right there on the racing line will indeed, as he's trying to get out of the way, as he's onto the grass, the brakes don't really work anymore, and he just taps the wall as an extra little added bonus there, which is super nice in such a situation, isn't it? But we've had a very, very atrocious race so far. Matthew Forrest still just enhancing his lead, you could say. He's extending it, and it's now up to 5 seconds over Pete Plastow, who's gaining on Koen Mulder as well. Macaroni is there in 4th place, and Luca Gagliardini, the Italian, still up there though in 5th. And he's had a bumpy ride. So look at this, Valdes Suarez gained 10 places in less than 10 minutes here. That's a very nice drive from the Brazilian. So didn't have the form in qualifying, didn't really seem to make it able to really work out for him in practice either, really. But here in the race, he's at least finding the consistency to move up through a field that's seeing a lot of chaos happening throughout it here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having a look through the field, and you can see one driver that's really gotten through the chaos is Cladera. He's up 14 places since the start, as we see. Oh, there's a car off the road up in front and snaps back forwards. I'm not sure who that was. That looks like it was one of the Audis. Might have been, actually I'm not sure who that was, to be fair, but it was the Italian number 41 Giacetti that got caught up in all of that, as well as we see a replay here of what is happening to Gaston Maceroni. He's up in 4th place. Does he have a massive snap? No, he keeps it nice and steady, but loses a lot of time to the cars in front, as we see the BMW make his way into the pits, and that's not going to be enough for him to last till the end. So I'm not sure if he has damage or what after that. Maybe he's got a meatball that he needs to serve.
10 minutes into the race here, Edward, it seems we are looking at a
miracle if any of them finish.
Yeah, it's going to be a diminished field coming to the line here. We're about quarter of the way through proceedings here, and certainly drivers are going to be hoping for things to settle down. But it is one of those tracks where it's so important for the car to really be stable and predictable, and I think the choice of having this as a fixed setup round for this series has been, dare I say, almost evil by the organizers, because they're forced to deal with cars that might not really have setups that are really working for the track. Here comes Martin de Jong, by the way, on the inside of Nick McLaughlin through Paddock Hill. Gets a good run and makes the move. Remember, Martin de Jong, he had a bit of a spinner earlier on, but see, he gets the great run there all the way from the exit to the start-finish straight, which, to be fair, there's not really much of a straight here at Brands Hatch, but you do carry some speed into Paddock Hill. But Martin de Jong had a bit of a spinner. He's also one of those drivers that's shown his pace on numerous occasions. Apologize. But I also just feel he's one of those drivers that seems to have a little bit of trouble digging together a consistent run of races, because he does have single races where he really tends to be up there. But you get a feeling that you aren't far away from getting something that could indeed be great. Just needs that little bit extra here. He's looking to the inside of Valdez Suarez, still holding on to 6th place. But in the end, I think he gets a compromised exit this time around. And Nick McLaughlin is very close too. But the Canadian is playing the patient game for now. Maybe trying to get the run into Druids, which I think he just about does. On the Audi, late on the brakes. An interesting three-way battle we're seeing up ahead. The gaps are extending and they're all spreading out, and behind this as well, these three certainly providing us with the action at the moment here, Edward.
Yeah, absolutely. As Matthew Forrest, he's set the fastest lap of the race so far at 1 minute 23.3, an entire second faster than the rest of the field. So the Lamborghini driver at the front, Matthew Forrest of Virtual Racing Compound, is extending his gap every single lap he takes this Brands Hatch circuit. A dominant performance from the number 78, it has to be said. Meanwhile, though, as you look back from Valdez Suarez's Ferrari, you can see, look at this, Martin de Jong, he's getting very close, but he took too much speed and a little bit too hard. He's lost a bit of time going through Sheen Curve under pressure into Sterling's, but he holds on to it just about, and now it's all about getting the good run through Clark Curve. If you can pull it off and get a great run in acceleration, it does set you up very nicely for a run into Paddock Hill Bend, but there doesn't seem to be anything on the cards just yet. So the real next best opportunity is making your way out of Surtees, and as you go down through Pilgrim's Drop and then up through Hawthorne's Hill, you can set yourself up for a move, potentially even around the outside at Hawthorne's Bench. You can carry a lot of speed by doing that. It's one of the corners on the track where both the inside and the outside are both viable overtaking opportunities just because of the nature, the radius of the corner.
Yeah, very much so, and that's a rare thing to see. Here, Alessio Cornelio is really trying to defend from Timothy van der Broek. Van der Broek gets the space, but far overshoots it into Druids, wanting it that little bit too much, I'm afraid. And Timothy van der Broek, look at this one. So we're having another look. You can see he breaks. Well, I was about to say, does he even break at all? Of course he does break, but he does break quite a fair bit too late. Goes on to the gravel, and I think just manages to turn it around before he makes contact with the tire barrier. He'll be happy that he managed to do so here. And Valdez Suarez Jr. still having that good-looking Audi of Martin de Jong's in his mirrors, but De Jong still not able to really find his way through, and Nick McLaughlin all the while is trying to scope up and scope out the gentleman ahead. But of course McLaughlin will be ever so slightly frustrated that he was sitting in a much better position than this, and then had that little bit of a spinner himself. Oh, and Suarez with the poor exit there, and that might open the door for Martin De Jong here on that seat. Is it gonna be? I think it is.
Oh, it's a big mistake there from Valdir Suarez, going through 30s, taking too much speed in, doesn't turn in at the right point, gets braking all sorts of wrong, side by side. He tries to hang it around the outside, but look at that. He just doesn't brake hard enough, does he? He takes too much speed in and loses out on both positions. Martin De Jong and Nick McLaughlin now through up into 6th and 7th, but now they've got a little bit of clear air. They can either choose to fight with one another, sort out their own little squabble that they were having earlier on, or try and work together and close up to Luca Gialladini up in 5th position. Meanwhile, as well, there's fights sort of here, there and everywhere, aren't they? But there's not a fight at all for the lead. Matthew Forrest, great performance so far, and the pit window is open now for all of these drivers if they want to come in early on or whatever they want to do with their strategy. It is open for the pit stops now.
Yeah, indeed, and just about time for a lot of these drivers who's picked up that little bit of damage that they might want to have looked upon here at Gaston Macaroni. Oh, we've seen that on so many occasions, Edward. They pick up that little bit of grass on corner, both on exit and on entrance, as was the case for our Argentine friend here, Gaston Macaroni. But that was very, very close indeed, and I would say it's ill-advised to make a habit of sticking just one tire onto the grass when trying to do anything with the car, really, because it often ends in tears. I think Gaston's already found on one occasion tonight. You mentioned battles happening, and Alessio Cornelio seems to be on a charge. He's gone past on Nuno Vinagre here, the Portuguese driver, on this last lap. And oh, I'm afraid we've had a problem here for Dirk Brinksma, and that's the John Player special Audi that had a big crash in qualifying. This, however, a little bit more benign, you could say. Here is Jose Coutinho.
Things are hotting up for second place as well, Hasse. Now Pete Plastow, I think, is having a bit of pressure from Koen Mulder from behind now.
Indeed, Koen Mulder is wanting it back. Remind you, he was indeed up there, so just when Pete Plastow actually got through him, I think Koen Mulder did have a little bit of an excursion of his own. That's the Gaviano McLaren, certainly a very, very good-looking machine as well. Speaking of deliveries, by the way, McLaren always a favorite car of mine due to the fact that it spits fire out the back. But indeed, Koen Mulder really moving about here. This back section of the track, not a place where you can really get any overtaking done. What you can do is stress the car ahead. Just make sure that you get as close as you possibly can to the first few corners. Best overtaking opportunities, or that would be my mind, at least here at Paddock Hill, Druids, Graham Hill, and then Surtees as well. And from there on, Edward, I think you would agree with me as well. The chances just get dim from there on of making a successful overtake. But Mulder close, not quite close enough, but it wouldn't take much of a mistake from Pete Plastow for Koen Mulder to really get in there. And these are two of the most consistent drivers in this series, so chances are that they'll be able to duke it out without it ending in tears, which is what we're hoping for, because this is of course a battle for track position indeed. A track for podium places. It's very much also a battle for championship points, and these two are close in that sense as well, which just adds that little bit extra. Martin de Jong now catching up here to Luca Gigliardini in the Fast and H BMW. A little bit of a squirm there on the exit. Or the BMW seems to be on the limit indeed. And Martin de Jong has got a good chance of getting past here. I would say he's done a good job of catching up as well. Edward, do you see Luca being able to defend this one for long?
Not if he gets that good of an exit out of Sterling's bend. Look at that. Great job from Martin de Jong, putting a lot of pressure on. Goes to the outside, then gets the inside line. Does he get on the power early enough, though? No, he doesn't. I don't think so. So he's going to have to wait yet another lap to try and pull it off. And I reckon if you can put the pressure on for this first half of the lap, if you can be really close up through Surtees, his best chance is likely going to be going into Hawthorne's Bend, sort of at the beginning, I suppose, of the GP section. Look at this, putting on a lot of pressure already into Graham Hill. He wants to set himself up nicely for the run, putting pressure on now into Surtees, as he knows about a couple of tenths back. Looks to the inside, though, and that's not what he wants to do. He wants to be trying to get that later apex power out, and he's got this long straight, doesn't he? Plenty of time flat out down Pilgrim's Drop and then up through Hawthorne Hill. So again, Martin de Jong, he just doesn't quite pick his battles right. Maybe he's looking a little bit too eager to get through, and he just needs to manage the race. Or what he could be doing as well is he could try and pit a little while earlier and try the undercut.
Indeed, and that is a viable strategy. Or just try to have that open frame of mind to pit whenever the time seems right, in terms of maybe traffic as well. If they are going to hit a bit of traffic here and there, that could be decisive. But we'll just have to see here. Pete Plastow still ahead of Koen Mulder. By the way, a warm welcome if I ever got the chance to actually saying that to everybody who's tuned in with us tonight on only on YouTube for once, because we've got other commitments, so to say, that goes through our Restream account and to Facebook and Twitch as well. And that is, of course, the Sunday Drivers MX5 series that will be on air here on the channel tonight as well. But for now, we are, say, engulfed with this race, and it's been an emphatic show so far. Matty Forrest, at least from on his behalf. Oh, that's a bit of a spinner up ahead, and that just shows.
That's Timo Paya.
That's Timo Paya indeed, and it just shows how easily it can go wrong, even for a leader, even for someone as consistent as Matthew Forrest, because see, he hits the wall, and he wisely also holds the brakes, you can see, which is nice to see drivers doing that when they have an incident. But it doesn't take much for a car to come back across the track like that, and if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, that could really end your race indeed. So it's not all over yet here, and look at this, certainly not all over for Koen Mulder, who's right on the tail of Pete Plastow.
Yeah, exactly. There's stuff happening everywhere we look. You can see as well on my relative that there's fights happening between Orsini and Coniglio. Look, we can see it here. Alessio Coniglio, the two Italians going wheel to wheel. Does he get a good exit out of Sterling's? Not quite. He's going to be looking now to get a good run through Paddock Clark Curve, sorry. He's going to be very close, but not close enough to really make a move. Look at this, though. Fighting all the way through. Looks to the inside, but yeah, not close enough. Look at the fire being spat out of the McLaren there. You're right on the money there, Hasse. It's a very nice car indeed. It's the intimidation factor, I think, most of all, from that car. It's spitting out fire from the rear exhaust. I don't think it does that much in real life, but it's a little bit of a quirk of iRacing that I really do like. Although, admittedly, Hasse, I've never actually driven the car. I don't even own it. I just like seeing it.
Oh, I have indeed driven it, and I'll tell you as much as back, at least on some of the older tire models, it was a little tricky. I managed to put the McLaren in the wall at Blanchemont after 24 hours of Spa, with my team having put us in a very good position over the course of their stints. As a matter of fact, we could very well have been in for a battle for Well, top spots indeed in that race. Yeah, I got Blanchement in the McLaren, and I do know the car. It's nice, and it's agile, and it's from what I hear, it's also a little bit more stable than it might have used to be, and that's a good thing indeed. Here is Van der Broek. Oh, there's a three-way calamity there. Oh, four-way it becomes, and that is not good at all.
All of these drivers, they'll be trying to pull their way into the pits, repair any damage. That's not the way that they were hoping that fight was going to be going, was it, Hasse? We're going to see a replay here. There was a checkup already, and Timothy Van der Broek arriving on the scene, completely unaware that the McLaren was slow. I think the McLaren was just trying to hug the inside, getting ready for pit entry. And that kind of all just held everything up with all of the other drivers. And yeah, we can just see it was a massive pile up there, wasn't it? A massive calamity for a lot of these drivers. They do have, of course, I believe, Hasse, or a fast repair that they can take to get their race back on track. However, at that point now, that's their safety net gone. They have to be clean as a whistle, don't they, for the remaining 20 or so minutes, just under 20 minutes to go in this brilliant, exciting race that we've been treated to. However, look at this, the gap has increased now between Koen Mulder and Pete Plasda, so I'm not sure. Pastor, was there a mistake perhaps from Koen Mulder?
There could have been a small mistake that had cost him just about that second's worth of time, but I also think that it could be down to Koen Mulder maybe having pressed on a little bit too hard earlier on. The tires are overheating or something in that sense. Oh, and Dirk Reski just about avoiding the
I think there was
the pitting. Yeah, indeed it was. Nuno Vinagre from GT3 Bulls coming in from 11th place in his Chicago liveried Ferrari, expected to come with a deep dish pie laden with pepperoni. Oh, that got me hungry thinking about that. I should probably shut my mouth. By the way, Pete Plasda coming in as well. Sorry to cut you off there, Edward, but that was a late charge to the pit line there. He's trying to extract as much time as possible, and that's all the while Koen Mulder stays out.
Koen Mulder then must have been able to have extended his stop by a lap, which means he'll be able to have what you'd expect to be a shorter pit stop, wouldn't it, Hasse? And that is going to be key, I think, for Koen Mulder's chances this race, is having that shorter pit stop and seeing if he can get the jump on his main rival this race. Pete Plasda, we can see he is still stationary in the pits. We're not expecting him to be taking tyres at this stage, as Nick McLaughlin as well makes his way into the pits. So
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm just looking here. Plasda has been stationary now for 40 seconds. So
he was speeding in the pits.
Oh, he's been speeding in the pits, and he's picked up a penalty. Peter Plasda. And what a way to throw away second place here. And that's not only second, that's going to be much, much worse. He's going to be at the far end of the field, I'm afraid. Oh, my word. Pete Plasda, who's now rejoining, as you can see here, in, what is that, 12th place. Behind a lot of cars, who was already pitted as well. What a disaster, indeed.
Matthew Forrest, though, a race leader, has made his way into the pit lane. So as well now, finally has Koen Mulder and Gaston Messeroni going to be able to see what the margin will be between first and second. It looks to be rather large, doesn't it? Because Matthew Forrest has been so dominant up in front. Meanwhile, this is Mike de Jong trying to get through the back marker here of, I believe that was Dirk Brinksma, trying to avoid getting sent skywards like he was in qualifying. Nice and safe in the end, even if it was a little bit heart in mouth. Meanwhile, the two race leaders have made their way out of the pits first and second, and Cody Steeg again. This is another moment for him, this time though at Paddock Hill Bend. Now though, I think we've started to see all of the drivers make their pit stops. I can't see any drivers on track that are yet to pit. As Nick McLaughlin, oh my word, it's going from bad to worse, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, it really is. And even with that, still sitting in 5th place, 4 seconds clear of Valdez Suarez Jr. That's 5th place now. Nils Cornelis in the pits, along with Pedro Cladera. Quite a few cars not on the lead lap anymore here, as Pete Plastow is taken another position. Here is on the tail of Luke Schneider. He's gonna get, well, he's gonna do his best to get past the BMW ahead quickly. And I'm just looking, I think by now, except for Stephen Orr, we've had every car of the field in the pits. And as I say that, yep, in he comes. So at least...
But he's coming a little bit earlier because he has got a bit of damage, doesn't he, on his rear wing, which can't have been helping his times one little bit. But yep, Hasse, now I think we're all caught up on the pit stop. So now it's the final sort of 15-minute sprint till the finish with Matthew Forrest. Look at that. He's got a healthy margin, about 9 seconds clear of his nearest competitor, Koen Mulder.
Yeah, indeed. And I just think that he can ease off ever so slightly here, not take any risks really, and try to play it as safe as possible. At the same time, you don't want to change too much in your driving rhythm, so to say, because you start overthinking things. That's really when you could start making your mistakes as well. Koen Mulder is, well, it's not really able to pressure Matty Forrest up ahead. He's not really under any pressure from Gaston Macaroni and behind. And Koen Mulder looks safe to go through in 2nd place here and to pick up some very, very good championship points for himself as well here. Gaston Macaroni for 3rd place at the moment, but Martin de Jong, is he able to close that gap? 4.3 seconds, the Dutchman. And on the last lap, well, Martin de Jong was, well, excuse me, but Martin de Jong 4 seconds faster. I'm thinking it must have been a pit lap for Gaston Macaroni there on his last lap. Not quite sure what that was all about. But indeed, Martin de Jong with a little bit of ground to make up, and it's all with a fair bit of spread there further up the field. Hence why we're now with Pete Plastow, 10th at the moment, but really charging, trying to get past on Luke Schneider.
Yeah, Pete Plastow trying to make up for that. I think it was about a 40-second stop on holes you get in iRacing for speeding in the pit lane, and he's got about 40 seconds between himself and where Koen Mulder is. So it would have been ever so close between the pair of them if it wasn't for that pit lane penalty. And look at that, a bump up the rear, misjudging the amount of apex speed that Luke Schneider would have been taking there, giving him a bit of help up the rear through Paddock Hill Bend for good measure. Look at this though, he's very quick, isn't he, through the corners is Pete Plastow. He needs to try and set up for a move potentially into Hawthorne's Bend now. Another good exit there from Graham Hill Bend, and he's got Surtees going for this long back straight. Hooks up the apex beautifully, doesn't he? And he already gets the overlap. Maybe a little bit too quick into the corner exit. Isn't able to get the slipstream, isn't able to put the power down as early as he was hoping. However, now he's going to have the car on the inside, just a nose, though it's not enough, I think, for Pete Plastow to really commit to the centre. Instead, backs out of that manoeuvre and then has to wait yet another lap. But you have to say it's probably a matter of when, not if. And I say when, look at that, side by side through Dinglevale, up into Sheen Curve, still side by side, a couple of wheels on the grass for Luke Schneider, side by side once more, two abreast, going through Stirling's Bend. Well, that was a mistake from Luke Schneider, but he did well to recover that position.
I have no idea how Luke Schneider actually managed to hold on to 9th place in that situation. Pete Plastow, I think, looking a little edgy to me, because with a little bit more calmness about him, he might have been able to just set up the move and get it done a little bit more decisively. Yet again, he's close, but feel like almost a little too close. But at the wrong time here is the outsider Druid as well. He's catching... Ooh, he's giving me a heart attack almost here. All at the same time, Valdez Suarez is still having to defend from Nick McLaughlin. And, going back. Here it comes, Pete Plastow up the inside. Is that through Surtees? I think that is. And it's gonna... Well, is it gonna stick, Ed? That's the problem. But I think Peter's got the inside here. There's no way Luke Schneider can come back really at him there. Nope. Indeed, there is not. And that is 9th place for Pete Plastow.
Absolutely. It was a great pass, though, from Pete Plastow. It was committed through Surtees. As we see, Cody Steeg facing the wrong way there, coming out through Sheen Curve. Look at that. I'm not sure what happened there. Was it contact or did he just make a mistake? Wheel off onto the grass. Snaps once, snaps again. Does very well, though, doesn't he, to keep out of the way of the cars behind. And now we're going to see exactly what Pete Plastow can do in clear air as we see Luca Gilardini. Well, look at that. He gets back on the circuit nice and safely following a little bit of an off-track rallycross excursion. But going back to my previous point, what can Pete Plastow do to catch up to the cars ahead? And what can Nick McLaughlin do to try and pass Valdez Suarez for position? He's got a little bit of a fight on his hands now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and it's you can certainly see Nick McLaughlin seems to have the pace of the two. Valdez Suarez, though, has had the consistency this race and does also have, at least as far as I can see, a car that might be in slightly better condition. That doesn't really scare away Nick McLaughlin in any way. It seems he's really charging, trying to get past here. We are well into the final 10 minutes of the race, by the way. There's about 7.5 of them left, so 7.5 minutes to go in this race, and that will equate to, is that around 5 laps or so? It will be something in that size. Here we've had a problem for Timothy van der Broek, though, here, who started out well. He had a good qualifying position for himself as well, but that is a hard impact. He does well to get himself off track quickly, which is always important, especially, as you mentioned also, Edward, the narrowness of Brands Hatch makes it all the more important that if someone goes and has an incident like that, that you try to get yourself off of the racing line as quickly as possible, because should you linger, there really isn't much space to go around. And as such, linger you shouldn't. Yeah, exactly. You got to try and keep out of the way. You don't want to be hovering around anywhere, basically, on the racing line if you do make those little mistakes. Meanwhile, look at this, Dirk Reski. Is he getting caught up by these two drivers? Let's have a look at his previous lap time. He was actually marginally faster than Valdez Suarez. So Dirk Reski, if he keeps those sort of lap times up, you should be safe towards the end of the race. But look at this. I just want to mention something. Sorry for cutting you off here, Edward. Dirk Reski, he started in 21st place. And he's now 5th. He's gotten up 16 positions since the start of this race. And he will just be hoping for the checkered flag to come quickly so that Valdez Suarez and Nick McLaughlin can pick up a butt. Where's Suarez? Valdez Suarez! I think he buckled to the pressure there of the Canadian in behind, and let's see what happened here, Edward. Yeah, as we were saying, Valdez Suarez, he's not made a mistake all race long. He's been the most consistent driver, but look at that. Lot of speed into Paddock Hill Bend, completely smashing the left-hand front. You can see an onboard here. Yeah, there was no way he was getting that stopped in time, was there? He was watching too much in his mirrors, not about what was in front of him. Unfortunate, though, for the Brazilian, and I think that is Valdez Suarez out into the pit lane. So from what would have been a great top 10 finish, could be looking like a very sad, unfortunate, potentially 20th or below position. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Carli here has had a moment there going, that's just on the entry into Graham Hill. So I'm not sure what's happened there. We don't often see drivers having those sorts of incidents. Oh, it was just on the exit of Druids. And then he was trying to keep out of the way of the faster traffic, but then in a sense, he kind of just took himself out. Yeah, that McLaren seems to be spitting flames no more, at least for now. Oh, back it is. Let's see some fire, boy. Might be coming shortly. Oh, there it is. Beautiful thing it is that. even with a fair amount of damage there, still a thing that looks good. Here's Stuart Jacklin, who's kept his Audi very clean as well. Who's gone up 10 positions in the course of this race, up into 7th by now, but he's got company from Pete Plastow. Will be trying to recover every single position he can in order to defend his championship position in the battle against Koen Mulder. Remind you that the gap between the two is small. Indeed, it's 9 points in the favor of Pete Plastow, so that gap between the two here will certainly, I think, put that to shame and equal out the standings. What also will be equal out is the fact that Matthew Forrest is in a very good position as well. However, Forrest is 22 points behind on Pete Plastow. So all in all, this seems to be swinging in the direction of Koen Mulder, who, mind you, last season won the championship based off of his consistency more than everything else, basically. And look at this, Pete Plastow now very, very close to the car of Stuart Jacklin. And Jacklin doing everything he can to defend it, and so far having success. But the Audi is under pressure here. And anyway, I was just about to say this round seems to be going the way of Koen Mulder, but it does not mean that everybody else has been ready. Pete Plastow around the outside. That is a beautiful move to go around the outside of the Audi of Stuart Jacklin there.
Brilliant stuff. Look at this. The replay, you can see he's going to look to the inside, potentially then goes for the dummy around the outside. Hard onto the brakes, committed, isn't he? With the speed through the corner, gives enough space on the inside should the car behind Stuart Jacklin need it. However, that wasn't the case, was it? Pete Plastow sending it through, maximum commitment. You love to see a pass like that. It's great to watch. Meanwhile, Matthew Forrest, I think is on the second to last lap. He's been leading basically since the get-go, hasn't he? I think he's led every single lap, and he put it on pole with the fastest lap as well. A grand slam for Matthew Forrest. What a brilliant, dominant performance it has been for the number 78 Lamborghini driver. Meanwhile, look at this. The fighting is still not over and done with, because Luke Schneider, is he going to be able to close in on this fighting up in front? No, he isn't. He's not in any contention. Meanwhile, in fact, actually, I think a lot of the gaps, Hasse, they've finally started to cool down. Finally, we can have a time to relax our voices and not scream and shout about all of the madness that we've been watching.
You don't say. It's been very hectic indeed here. I think I had an expectation it was going to be hectic, and I wasn't hoping for it to be this bad or this hectic. It hasn't been. Well, it has been sort of bad in the sense that we've had a few more incidents that you would make me like to see. Here is Luke Schneider is side by side with Cladere, who I think is trying to unlap himself. Yes, indeed. And into the final minute, however, we are. Matthew Forrest on his way around what will be the final lap of Brands Hatch for him tonight.
Yes, absolutely. A great performance, like we were mentioning, for the virtual racing compound Lamborghini driver. He kept his head cool while everyone around him sort of lost his, and for a moment we thought it could have been a virtual racing compound 1, 2, 3, but it seems that was not the case, was it? Koen Mulder did very well to have his own fight up through the field, but he just wasn't able to have the pace, was he, to challenge our race leader. Martin de Jong seems for all the world like he's going to be taking what I think we might have been saying was an unlikely P3, but when you put yourself in the top 10 in qualifying, you can certainly be in contention for a great result. Martin de Jong, he was able to be cool customer, wasn't he, with a great result on the cars. But Matthew Forrest, I think he's only got a couple more corners to go. We'll be able to see him cross the line to win this evening's race.
Indeed. And Matthew Forrest, well deserved. Around the final corner he comes to check the checkered flag. My own version to stop the start watch. Matthew Forrest takes the checkered flag here from Brands Hatch. After a lights to flag win, brilliant indeed. Kuhn Mulder takes second. And what a good race it's been for him as well. Points in the bag. Martin Young's gained 7 places from where he started. And he will indeed, I think, as well be happy with getting a spot on the podium. And Dirk Resky's gotten another spot here late in the day. Gaston Marcanoni, I think, has had a problem on the last lap. Dirk Resky gets another position up into 4th and making himself, I think, king of the high jumpers in the field today, gaining 17 places. And let's just see what happened here, because he's
already got damage there. Is that maybe a
Yeah.
mistake going into Paddock Hill Bend potentially? I'm not sure where else you could really lose your front end in that way. So Gaston Maceroni, this
Here
is
it
it.
is.
This is him coming up into Paddock Hill Bend for the final time of the race.
Oh!
Look at that. Too much mustard on that. Sends it into the corner. Wow, that was a lot of speed. It was almost like the brakes just didn't work at all. He was carrying that much speed.
That was a massive impact indeed, and he'll be very, very lucky to be able to actually have picked up 5th place there in the end. Oh my, oh my, Edward, that was pretty much an ending. You could say an ending in the spirit of the race, maybe, because it's been hectic throughout, I want to say, and hectic here as well. Oh, I'm gonna need a short moment to catch my breath. I'll cue the music and see if we get any drivers in the interview room within the next few minutes to have a chat with us. I don't think I've ever been on one of these broadcasts and had a situation where I actually had no one wanting to talk to us at all. Sometimes it's only a single driver. Sometimes we have 10 drivers and we have to pick out the most interesting ones. And just as I say that, they come flooding into the waiting room. And with that, let's start from the top, shall we, Edward? And I'm gonna drag in Matt Forrest for you to have a talk with.
Yes, welcome to the commentary box, Matthew. What a great race from you. That was dominant performance in qualifying. You were just untouchable in the race. It was, I don't know if you can even have anything other than untouchable for your performance there. Just talk us through how it was like driving this Brands Hatch circuit.
I'd put a lot of practice in earlier in the week, so I knew what kind of time I had to do, but it was still, just to keep it on the road, so difficult around here. But a good effort, and I was happy with it by the end of it. Make up from last week, or the last race.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, 3 weeks ago, we were at the Spa circuit, and you basically had a race to forget, but you didn't forget, did you? You sort of learned from a lot of everything that happened, and you managed to get, most, I think, importantly, capitalizing on your pace in qualifying, getting that good start, and from then on out, it didn't seem in doubt.
Yeah, it was very important to get that qualifying lap in. Still wasn't happy with it. Could have gone quicker. Really difficult around here because you leave yourself enough time for cars in front, but you know it's Brands Hatch, stuff happens, and you find yourself keep creeping up on cars very quickly.
Yeah,
but it's fair play to everyone today. All the back markers.
Yeah, there was
Absolutely
a lot
fantastic.
of stuff going on, wasn't there, Matt? But you seemed to keep your head above water, didn't you? You were sort of a nice, cool, level head when everyone around you was losing theirs. And what is it about this circuit and this car that you just seem to be so consistent with?
I'm more consistent when it's in the baseline setting. It's quite stable, I find, for me. I've just got, I know how to use the brake on it. I think it's just to rotate the car, not too much. And but it's a lot of practice. I don't race anything else. So
Fair enough. Well, as you mentioned, actually, yeah, you've just reminded me. Is it back-to-back race victories in terms of the fixed setup rounds?
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, so that is, it seems to be your strong suit, and maybe you'll be able to try and figure out maybe something with a setup to try and keep it more stable for you next time out. I can't actually remember where it is. I'm sure Hasse will be in
Watkins
my
Glen.
ear reminding me. Oh, thank you very much, Watkins Glen. And is that a circuit you're looking forward to?
Nope.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one.
Well, you're going to have to certainly put in the practice. If you've been able to put in this amount to get good at Brands Hatch, I'm sure you'll be able to do just the same for Watkins Glen, Matt. But we'll be looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time there. But before we do, is there anyone you'd like to shout out on the broadcast?
Yeah, thanks for obviously commentating, and thanks to the team, and who have been very good, and thanks to the organisers. Rob's been great.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. We'll be looking forward to seeing you if you can conquer the beast that is Watkins Glen. I know you're not looking forward to it, but we're certainly looking forward to watching you there.
Yes.
So, Hasse, that was Matthew Forrest, our race victor this evening. And you know what? I can see who you've brought in. How about you have a quick chat to second place Cone Mulder?
It should be
Hi, guys.
Hello, Cohen. Welcome to the booth, and it shall indeed be my pleasure, Edward. Cohen, second place on a hectic, chaotic day, to say the very least. It was the like we've had the Tour of Flanders today for bicycles. This was maybe the motor racing equivalent, with all the drama that seemed to happen around the field. Second place for you. Good points in the bag for the championships, I suppose?
Yeah, indeed, good points. I started seconds, I finished seconds, but there was a lot of incidents. Peter had an incident, unluckily for Nick, but luckily for me, he spun out. So, second place. Glad.
And on a race like this and on a track like this, do you feel that it's a fixed setup round when driving the Ferrari? Is it any more tail happy, or do you feel like there are things that you can sort of mitigate when you have the ability to change the setup?
Yeah, true. On this course, the tire wear is enormous. In my case, I drive very aggressive. So in the last 10 laps, my tire was completely gone. So with an own setup, you can manage that better.
Yeah, indeed, Koen. And as I said earlier as well, second place here will leave you in the lead of the championship standings. And it's looking good for you, very much in the same fashion as last year, where consistency is king. And you ended up taking the points on enough occasions to clinch the title in the end. Is that what you're hoping for again this season? That it's going to be the same name of the game, and that the overall consistency, of course, paired with the speed that you have, is going to be enough to take you all the way?
A good question. Let's hope it's going to be the same like last year. Consistency is the key, but Matt is a very, very quick guy, and let's hope for the best. That's all I can say.
Well, indeed, Koen. Thanks for joining us for this post-race interview in the booth, and of course, as per SimRacers World TV tradition, is there anyone you should like to thank or shout out here live on the stream?
Let's continue the shout outs. Shout out to you guys, and great job. All my fans watching, Robert, of course, and all the guys who was driving in the league. Well done, guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Koen, for joining us. As I said, it's been a pleasure, and best of luck for the rest of the championship.
Guys, cheers.
So that was Koen Mulder, championship leader after this round, and that leaves us with one driver to have a chat with. And it is the last and third place step on the podium. Indeed, another Dutchman. It is Martin de Jong who's going to have a chat with Edward here.
Oh, welcome to the booth, Martin. That was a very exciting race from your perspective. We got a lot of your fights through the field, starting, I think, in 10th place, but you got yourself a very hard-fought podium.
Did I get a podium? No, I was so surprised at the end from... Okay, P4 behind Macaroni. Then I spun. And yeah, then I don't know what happened. Yeah, he spun, but I think he got damage. And then P3. I think this is a good Easter present. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really entertaining as well. Talk us through the sort of opening phase of the race, because you didn't seem to get the best qualifying result you were hoping for, but in the race, you just seemed to come alive.
Yeah, qualifying, I just couldn't get the lap together. I don't know why. So I thought, okay, we'll see how the race goes. And somehow I got into quite a decent rhythm. Unlucky 2 spins. The fight with Junior was nice, although I think in the end, I think he steered into me on that corner. I have to check that. But there were some nice races, and I've learned to be very patient behind people, just looking, getting back, and trying to get them to make a mistake. And in the end, I'm really happy with P3. It makes up the past 2 races, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna look forward to the next round for you, but you mentioned it's so good to be sort of a bit of a level head, especially here at Brands Hatch, a circuit that is notoriously difficult to try and pass on in GT3 machinery, but you managed to make it work with that mindset. Is that something you're going to take forward into the next round at Watkins Glen, or is that one that you think opens itself up for a little bit more of an attacking drive?
I think Watkins Glen really suits well for driving in a more aggressive way, so more attack mode. I'll use more attack mode there. It's also a circuit that I come to know quite well now, due to the iRacing series that have been there this season and last season. So I'm hoping for another podium. I think first position is out of reach when Matthew is just doing his thing. So.
Well, you never know, Martin, because we were having a talk to Matthew, and he said that he does not like Watkins Glen whatsoever. So you never know; you might find yourself standing pretty at the top step.
Well, I most certainly will hope so, and I'm really looking forward to racing there. Will be new with the Audi, but I think the car suits me well. So I will do my very best to get a P1 there and get back into the championship like that.
Absolutely, Martin. Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing what you can do in a few weeks' time. But before we let you get off and celebrate with the rest of your Holy Cow Racing teammates for your podium, the floor is yours if there's anyone you'd like to shout out here on the broadcast.
First of all, congratulations to Matthew and Koen with P1 and 2, of course. And a big thanks again to Robert for hosting the series, and a big thank you to you guys doing a splendid job in commentary. I always like watching the live streams back afterwards. So let's keep up the good work, and let's go to the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Martin. And Hasse, that was our third place driver at the bottom step of the podium, but a great drive, wasn't it, from Martin de Jong. Let us see exactly what will happen, though, in 3 weeks' time, because I'm really looking forward to Watkins Glen now after what has been a brilliant evening here at Brands Hatch.
Very much so, and I've been enjoying it as well. It's been hectic, it's been hefty, to say the least, but it's also been, there's been great rewards at the end for those guys getting the best out of this race. Indeed, not even 3 weeks, actually an entire month's time before we return for more Sunday GT Masters. That'll be on Sunday, April the 2nd. April the 2nd, sorry, that's that's not even a possibility, I suppose. That'll be May the 2nd, of course. My apologies. The coming week, by the way, here on SOW TV will bring the Porsche Club of Great Britain visiting Sebring. That's on Wednesday. We've got the SRW F3 series on Thursday from Okayama. Sundays sees the Apex Tech League visit Spa-Francorchamps. And that rounds off this week indeed. So plenty of stuff to catch up on here on Sim Racers World TV. I think that also rounds it off for tonight. Of course, my name is Hasse Rømer, and I have been alongside Edward May tonight. Edward, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, mate. It's always good having you along in the booth, and I do hope you feel the same way.
Absolutely, Hasse. Absolutely. There's no one I'd rather love to commentate with on a lovely Sunday evening for some GT3 action, Hasse. Don't you worry. I know you're going to be blushing all the way. But it's been great, isn't it? Everyone that's been tuning in as well. Thank you for all the messages you've been typing in chat, all the likes you've been giving the stream. Hasse, I think it's about time, though. We have to sadly bid everyone goodbye.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, until next time here on SRW TV, it's been a pleasure. Like and to give us a subscribe if you want to see more, and if you haven't already. And with that said, until next time, from us here in the booth, well, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.
It's black and white.